I'd like to sort of build on Avi's question. I'm Steve Centrillo, by the way. John, I'd hazard to guess that you probably, like me, were lucky enough to go through an agency training program back when agencies had training programs. And I know, because I've run an office of a big dumb agency, the precursor of one of the dumbest.
To go unnamed.
You can all guess which one that is. I know how hard it is to get a holding company to give you money. And I know how easy it is for a holding company to take your money.
Yeah.
How do you commit in the job you have now to actually rebuild those kinds of programs that we were lucky enough to benefit from and get Martin to tell you that money doesn't have to generate a return tomorrow?
Yeah.
Because you and I both know probably 20% of the people that went through the programs we went through actually stayed at that agency 5 years. But those people were incredibly valuable. So how do you face that challenge, I guess, is the question.
So this is I might be stoned by all of you for saying this, but I really believe this, and I think most people who know me, is that I don't bullshit. Martin Sorrell and WPP are not the problem. They are absolutely not the problem. The problem is right here. I have never had a strategic hire. I have never had, I put through one of the biggest salary increase budgets in history at Ogilvy this year in July, with the full support of Martin and WPP because of the business case I made for restoring, for supporting our recovery and restoring belief after the worst 2.5 years in our business. I think our problem is, and by the way, a lot of the pressures from a holding company perspective are they see successful business models being created, outside of the so-called big dumb agency, and they say, gee, they seem really successful. They're winning new business. Their reputation's great. Their economics are really good. What are you doing to keep pace with that? So a big part of this is we have to be better at managing our own business and our own business model. That does not mean that there aren't challenging metrics that we have to try and hit, but this is another fallacy that gets spread around, that somehow this is all to the benefit of Martin Sorrell and the holding company. It's nonsense. It is nonsense. If we do well, our people will get the full benefit of it. We just have to run our business as well. We have to get paid fairly for what we do. We have to be confident in our product and our people, and we've got to go out there and perform. And if we do, we'll be fine. We'll be fine.
Two quick questions. First of all, why the hell do you guys listen to Parker? Secondly, do you think there's a little more seriously, do you think there's a bias out there now? It feels like there is in the trade press. I speak to pitch consultants, and it almost feels like there's institutionalized bias against large global agency networks now. The agencies where Steve came from, the Crispins of the world, still garner, it seems like a preferential treatment, and I'm not really sure why.
I have the deepest respect for the Crispins of the world and others. I will tell you that if any not big dumb agency is sitting here thinking that life is wonderful, I would be shocked. Because the fact is, we're getting calls all the time now from clients and new business prospects who have gone and worked with alternative new age agencies and are now saying, we want to come back and talk to you. And I don't take comfort in that. I just think it's the new reality of our marketplace, that clients have never been under more stress, more demanding business circumstances. They're looking for ideas and solutions and things that will help them innovate in their business. And they'll talk to just about everyone. Now, if you go to talk to any of the major consumer packaged goods clients, they all have a map. And they all have a quadrant that says, I need global network agencies and great ones to do terrific work. I also want garages that make consumer-generated content in the afternoon and everything in between. And they're just distributing their business in a portfolio that they think will ultimately serve the company as a whole. So I think we're all equally advantaged and disadvantaged. It's about our people and our ideas. One last point about the George Parker comment. Our people read George Parker. So my view is you better have some good answers if he asks some tough questions.
So this question focuses on the inside part of inside the big dumb agency. As you've worked to transform your agency, What's going on inside the walls of the agency? To what extent have you found ways to innovate the way in which people collaborate, the way in which you use your workspace, the way in which teams are organized and work to support accounts? What ideas or innovations have you identified?
Well, I'm in the midst of actually doing just that. And I've gone through this whole due diligence process and spoken to a whole bunch of people in there, both in production, in account management, and in creative. And I'm about to announce a couple of weeks from now, when we have a big internal meeting, a complete restructure of the creative department and production department and how we all collaborate across the board. So I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag just now, because I would actually prefer to tell our own people first how they're going to be working in the future, which I think they will also appreciate. But it will reflect the kind of work and the nature of work these days, and the way collaboration needs to change based on client demands. And hopefully we'll be a smarter, faster, and less dumb organization for it.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that strikes me is that, one of the amazing things about Ogilvy is all the capabilities we have. And I think the thing that we have to make sure of, that we can deal with the complexity of that, so that you use the capabilities you have and really need, rather than ones you just have. And I think that's really just focusing on the goal and really finding the people that you really need to do the job, kind of picking into the toolbox and pulling out exactly what you need, and then fastening those people to you. I mean, I think we really have to sort of manage by objective. I think it's a very simple idea, but it's the clearest way I can navigate this whole thing. What is the task? Who are the best people? And then bind them to you, and you go to it. And you have some successes, and you prove it can work that way in a streamlined manner. It's really simple.
And just so you know, the intent behind this, one of the things that has driven our recruitment strategy is bringing in Steve from Goodby, Lars from AKQA. We've gotten a couple of folks who've chosen to join us from Crispin. I mean, we want to learn, not in an inappropriate way, but we want to learn how new agencies are experimenting with new ways of working and new ideas. And that's what this is all about. We have more shared ventures going on with young startup agencies right now than we've ever had. And part of it is because we want to bring new ways of thinking into a large agency environment. We have probably 2 or 3 more minutes. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. We'll come back.
Okay.
Hello?
And you all mentioned, the kind of, the push. Oh, sorry. The push towards kind of you all hiring a lot of database, people to kind of do, the math kind of side behind things. And then where do you feel, the qualitative research, lies in this new reality? Instead of spending 5 seconds with 100,000 consumers, what do you think about the value of spending an hour with maybe 10 consumers, and how will those interplay?
I mean, this is to me what is exciting about our business right now, is that you have so many more tools. We've got tons of analytics people who are trying to, in a performance marketing context, prove that a particular solution works better than another from a quantitative basis, but we're also experimenting with ways of iterating creative solutions with better qualitative tools and all the rest of it. What we've asked many clients to give us the benefit of the doubt on is, just don't make us get a number. Let's just not put some formula in place that means, bing, we can go off and now run this and everything will be fine. It's really, we're trying to work both angles, the accountability from the market side and more sensitive measures of relevance and impact from the qualitative side.
But from a purely creative standpoint, I'm fascinated by the idea of reaching 10 to 100 alpha consumers and alpha connectors and have them do the rest of the work through various social media channels. So I think there's a whole analytics part of it, but there's also the creative challenge of saying, are there different ways of reaching consumers that there have been before, and how can we use consumers as our spokespeople down the line?
I think we have time for one more question. We had somebody here, if you still want to ask it. Yeah?
Yeah, so you say don't make you connect or compete based on number, but how do you compete when the brands are going directly to Google and directly to the other Silicon Valley startups to buy?
Well, we heard from Google last week. I was at the WPP strategy conference, and we were assured that that's not happening anymore. I think the most interesting thing to watch is going to be how these new partnerships and relationships actually work, and whether clients can go directly and get real value for that. What's the role of agencies, you know, both in terms of, as Lars describes, in the ideation and the creative side, and in the metrics and accountability side. It felt to me last week like a mashup. There are lots of really smart people who are all trying to, you know, figure out how they get an edge in this, you know, exchange process. But the one consistent thing that everyone at this conference talked about last week, whether you were a media owner, whether you were Google or some hotshot math wizard from whoever, they all talked about you need great ideas. They all talked about ideas are still the currency that a lot of this stuff is going to be judged. And that's what we'll have to all figure out, how we get our fair share of those. We're done.
And before everybody leaves, can we just say thank you very much to everybody who contributed to this, and apologies to the ones whose questions we didn't get to, and thank you for listening.